What's happening, guys? Have you ever wanted to build a chatbot but weren't quite sure where to start? Well, rest assured, we're gonna work that out today. In today's video, we're gonna go through end-to-end how to build a chatbot using Watson Assistant. We'll cover intents, entities, and dialogues. And by the end, you'll have built a chatbot that can handle virtually any ice cream store. What? Okay, so the chatbot that we're going to be building is built using Watson Assistant. Now, Watson Assistant is a really easy service to work with, and it's all available through IBM Cloud. Now, if you don't have an IBM Cloud account, you can create one. I've already got one set up, so just head over, create an account, and then you should be good to go. Then once you've got an account, you can log in. And from there, all you need to do is head over to Catalog, and then choose Services, and then AI. Now, the chatbot that we're going to be building is based on an ice cream store. So we're going to be handling a few key things. So general introductions, menu requests, and last but not least, how you might go about handling some online ordering. All right, so let's kick it off. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a new instance of Watson Assistant. So we just click that, and then we need to select our pricing plan. So for this particular tutorial, I'd suggest getting the Plus trial because there's a web integration that makes life a lot easier if you want to go and deploy this to your website. But if you want to stick with Lite, that's more than enough. It's going to have everything you need in there. So let's just click Plus trial and then hit create. And then from this sort of resources page, all you need to do is hit launch Watson Assistant. And then step into our skill. So each assistant is associated to a skill. So in this case, we've already got my first skill sort of set up. We just need to step into that. All right, before we get too in depth, it's time for a quick sidebar. So there's three key things you need to know about virtually any virtual agent or chatbot. These are intents, entities, and dialogue. Really, these three key things make up virtually every single virtual assistant and chatbot out there. So if we begin with intents are really to do with what our user is trying to do. It's what they're asking and why they're here. Entities are really to do with people, places, and things. They're your nouns and proper nouns that you're trying to extract from a user's text. Last but not least, now that we understand what a user's trying to do and what they're asking for, we need a way to respond to them, and that's where dialogue comes in. In the next couple of videos, we're going to go through each one of these and how to apply them to your virtual agent. All right, so the first intent that we're actually going to import is going to be a system intent or from the content catalog. So what we're going to do is just hit content catalog, head over to general and select add to skill. So these intents basically allow us to handle some general inquiries. So if we actually step into these intents, we've got about you, how to connect to an agent, general ending, greetings, and whatnot. So we've got our intents over here. Now we're really going to focus on these two here, so we can delete everything else. So we've got general ending and general greetings. Now, an intent, as we were talking about before, really handles what the user is trying to do. So now we need to know whether or not our chatbot is actually able to pick that up. So to do that, we can just hit try it over here. And as soon as this is finished training, we should be able to test it out. And you can see our assistant's automatically picked up general greetings. So that's a great thing. But you can see that it's responding back, I didn't understand, can you try rephrasing? So now what we do, now that we've got our intent built, we need to associate some dialogue to it. So let's head on over to dialogue. So remember, dialogue is all to do with how our assistant responds back to a specific intent. So what we're going to do is to keep our assistant nice and clean is add a new folder, and we're just going to call this one general for now. Perfect. Then let's move this folder below this welcome node. And then what we're going to do is start adding some nodes to that folder. Now we're going to add two specific nodes, one to handle general greetings and one to handle general endings. So let's add our first node to our folder, and we'll call this node general greeting. Then what we want is for our dialog to pick up when it detects our specific intent. And the intent that we're looking at is general greeting. So what we can do is specify a condition here where this particular node gets triggered. So what we'll do is we'll just type in general greetings. This means that as soon as our assistant recognizes the general greeting intent, it will respond with this specific piece of text. So we can say, hey, how's it going? Anything I can help you with. All right, let's quickly test that one out. So if we hit try it again, rather than it responding with I didn't understand, now if we say hello, you're gonna see that our assistant's now responding with, hey, how's it going? Anything I can help you with? Perfect, so that's working. Let's do the same thing for general endings. So let's add a node to this folder. And we'll call this one general endings. Actually, we can just call it goodbye. Then what we want to do is trigger this node if our intent detected is general ending. So we can just type in hash and general ending, and we can say catch. So now our assistant will respond with catch you later. Thanks for chatting. Perfect, so let's quickly test that out. So if we said goodbye, you can see that we're automatically picking that up and we're responding with the appropriate text. Now, that's pretty good. So we've actually gone and leveraged Now what we want to do is extend this a little further. So rather than relying on intents from the content catalog, we want to use some intents of our own. So what we can do is head over to intents. And in this case, I think we should allow our chatbot to handle some menu requests. So in this particular case, our chatbot is going to be for an ice cream store. So we'd want to be able to respond to requests for different types of ice cream, or say they were requesting what flavors we've got. We'd want to be able to give them an answer. So what we can do is create an intent. And in this case, the request or the intent behind the person's conversation is they're requesting for a menu, or they're asking for a menu really. So we're going to name our intent menu and then create that. Now we just need to enter in a number of examples. So best practice is to add in at least 5-ish examples. So let's crack on with that. So our examples are going to be So our examples are going to be what flavors are available. Sorry, Australian spelling, guys. Flavors, if people get really lazy. Flavor list. What flavors do you have today? Show me your menu. What's another one? Can I see a menu? Perfect. Cool. Now, currently our assistant is training to recognize these new intents. So as soon as that's finished training, we'll be able to test this out. While that's happening, let's go on ahead and define our dialog. So what we'll do again is create a folder, and this folder is going to handle our menu requests. So we might just call this one about, because within this node we might start handling other things, so opening hours, about us, all that other stuff. So here we're going to just leave that blank for now. And then let's move this folder below general. And then what we want to do is add a node to this folder. So let's add one there. And we're going to call this node menu. Now remember, our intent is basically what triggers a specific node here. So what we're going to do is create an intent or create a trigger, which is based off our menu. So if it detects a menu, then we want to reply back. Now, this particular ice cream store only has 3 flavors, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. So we're going to give them back that answer. Perfect. All right, so now if we detect our menu intent, we should be responding back with, thanks for asking, we have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. So can I see a menu? Awesome. So we've picked up our intent and we've also responded with the correct dialogue. Last but not least, what we're going to do is create another node which will get us along the way to handling online ordering. Now, this is a little bit more advanced, so we're going to have to do some additional things here. Up until now, we've really only handled intents and dialogues, but now we're going to create some entities. So entities are really to do with nouns, things, people, places, persons. That's the best way to sort of get an idea. People, places, persons, and things. So here we're actually going to create 3 specific entities. So we're going to create one to detect flavors. So when they want to place an order, we want to know what flavor they want. We also want an entity for quantity, so how much of that flavor do they want. And last but not least, we want an entity to be able to pick up some emails or some contact details so that we can actually send a confirmation to them later on. So we'll start off and we'll create an entity called flavors. And we've got, keep in mind, we had 3 flavors, so we had chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. And then let's create our next entity. So we wanted quantity. So in this case, they just sell it in 500 ml containers or 1 liter containers. So we'll create a quantity called, an entity called quantity, and we'll say 500 ml. And we'll have a synonym for and 1 liter. Perfect, so we've got our quantities and we've got our flavors. Now we also want to create an entity to detect emails. So this is a little bit more advanced and we're going to use, so rather than providing specific examples, we're going to use a pattern match. So here we can type in email. And then our example is going to be email. Now, rather than using synonyms, what we're actually going to do is use a pattern. So a pattern is basically using regex to detect email. So I'll provide this detail in the description below, but basically we can just use a specific pattern to go and pick up emails. And let's add that value. You can see that's our specific pattern there that's detecting emails. Now what we need to do, now that we've defined our dialogue, now that we've defined our entities, we actually need to go back and define our intents because we've got no triggers at the moment. So let's do that. So let's create an intent called online order. And let's give it some examples. So for example, can I order some gelato? Can I put in an order for delivery? Deliver gelato. I want to order, please. And what's another one? I would like to place an order. Perfect. Okay, let's let that train and then let's go and start defining our dialogue. So we've got our entities, we've got our intents. Last but not least, we need our dialogue. So let's do that. So if we go to add folder, let's name our folder online ordering. Okay, so we've got our online ordering folder. Let's just move this below about. And now what we want to do is add a node to our folder again. So let's add that. And what we're going to do is trigger this specific node if we detect the online ordering intent. So let's do that. Perfect. Now, looks like our chatbot has finished understanding our intent. So let's say I want to order some gelato. Perfect, and it's picked up our correct intent. So that's all working well. Now we just need to handle our dialogue. Now, because an online order constitutes a few key parts, so it constitutes the flavors, the quantity, and the email for that person as well, we want to be able to have our chatbot detect whether or not we have all the information required for a specific order. Now, what we can do within Watson Assistant is use a feature called slots. And slots allow us to prompt for a bunch of information within a single node within our chatbot. So let's apply that. And what we'll be able to see is we're able to check for a number of conditions. So keep in mind our order constituted three things. So we had flavors, quantities, and our email. So we want to check whether or not we have a flavor. Then, assuming we have a flavor, we want to store it in our context. So that way we can actually work with it later on. And if you have a look up here, our context is basically just a set of variables that are available at runtime. So if we don't have flavors, then we'll say, what flavors would you like? Then let's create our last two slots. So those were quantity. And here we want to say, how much would you like to order? And then we need email. Perfect. And then we should say, what email should we send order confirmation to? Perfect. Now, what we actually need to do is then condition our response. So now that we've collected all the information, we should be able to detect what types of information we actually respond back to them with. So ideally, you'd want to have some sort of confirmation that says, all right, that's awesome. I've got your order for 1 liter of chocolate ice cream. I'm going to be sending a confirmation to blah, 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 joeblogs@hotmail.com. So what we'll do is we'll create some dialogue that will effectively allow us to respond in that way. So we'll say, perfect, I'll send off an order to have your request fulfilled. And then here's where we want to insert some of our context entities for $quantity. So when we're working with Watson Assistant, we can actually access our context variables using our $sign because they're available up here. So here we're going to say quantity of flavor. Let's call this flavor. Ice cream. You should receive an email shortly to $email. Now, what happens is when we trigger this piece of dialogue, when we get our email back, we're only going to get our matched value. So over here, although we may detect an email, we're only going to get the word email back. So we'll need to do something a little bit more advanced to actually get that in. Pretty simple, one line of code, but we can get that in. So all we need to do is hit this gear button up here and then open up our JSON editor. And then what we need to do is change this. So right now it's returning a value for a value of just email. What we want to do is actually extract the email that our users actually input. So we can actually do that using, again, another line of code that allows us to extract an email. So using our user's input text, we can actually extract using regex. We can take that out and return a user's email back. So now when we save it, we need to clear our context. So now when we test it out, we can say, I'd like to order some ice cream. Again, we're going to be prompted for our flavors, chocolate. How much would we like to order? Let's say 1 liter this time. And what email? So we're going to say johndoe@gmail.com. Perfect, and you can see we've extracted our email. Now we just need to deploy our chatbot to a site. So because or alternatively, if you wanted to integrate with something like Facebook, you can also step in, hit add integration and select Facebook Messenger. Then all you need to do are follow the steps 1 through to 5 and you'll have your chatbot fully integrated.
And that about wraps it up. So through this tutorial, we went through how to build a chatbot end to end. We worked with intents, entities, and dialogues and built a fully featured chatbot that could potentially go and handle orders going forward. If you like this tutorial, be sure to like, share, and subscribe it. Thanks again for watching. Peace.